Welcome back to The Takeout. The Treasury Department now investigating a COVID relief fraud scheme in Minnesota that the Biden Justice Department prosecuted for years. Dozens have been convicted, many of Somali descent. President Trump has recently harshly attacked the entire Somali community in Minnesota. Republican State Representative Kristin Robbins from Minnesota joins us now. We should note that she is also running for governor. Representative, it's good to have you with us. Before we get to the fraud, I just want to say, and in your own words, describe how comfortable or uncomfortable you are with President Trump's rhetoric about Somalians who live in Minnesota.
Well, I think it's important to call out that the majority of the fraud we've uncovered thus far is in the Somali community. But I also always point out that the best whistleblowers I have often come from the Somali community. So both things are true. And one of the reasons the fraud was allowed to persist for so long is because people were unable to say out loud without ramifications that it was largely in the Somali community. And we have to be able to say the truth if we're going to get to the root of this problem. So I'm happy to acknowledge that, but I'm also happy to acknowledge the whistleblowers. Both things are true.
Representative, this started as a fraud scheme dealing with food allocations during COVID. But I have read recent stories that there are concerns that this could also be involved in housing and autism programs in the state of Minnesota. Do you share those concerns?
Absolutely. Those are substantiated, and we've already had indictments and in both of those areas. What we're seeing, though, is a much larger area of fraud in all the Medicaid expansion areas in Minnesota. So it's housing stabilization, autism centers, non-emergency medical transportation, sober homes, integrated community supports, many other programs. So in addition to those you've named, the governor has now belatedly stopped payment in 14 other program areas, and we are continuing to do hearings. I have new whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork every day. So we are just at the tip of the iceberg on this.
And what does the state lack, or did it lack anything to get to this sooner? There are those stories I've read that said the state a long time ago notified federal prosecutors. That's how this ball got rolling. Do you dispute that state auditors were on this early enough?
So the Office of Legislative Auditor has had reports citing problems with internal controls going back many years. Where the accountability fell down was in the executive branch. So those reports were ignored, and it wasn't really the state that reported to the feds. It was the feds who came in and flagged something for the state that started the Feeding Our Future investigation. And as you point out, that was under President Biden with a Democrat U.S. attorney here, Andy Lugar. He did fantastic work. And now new U.S. attorney and Andy Rosen is Daniel Rosen, forgive me, is picking that up, and we are continuing to have terrific help from our federal partners.
Do you expect more prosecutions and or indictments?
Absolutely. I know many cases are ongoing. I've investigated many of the whistleblower cases that come to me, and then we get to the point as a legislator where I don't have access to bank records or health records. So when we find all these credible allegations, then I turn it over either to the Office of Legislative Auditor, the FBI, or the U.S. Attorney's Office. And I know many of the things I've turned over, they're still working their way through. So it's going to be a multi-year process with, I would expect, hundreds of indictments and prosecutions. So we are just getting started, sadly. But we need to finish this. We need to get the accountability.
Representative Robbins, what's the hardcore politics of this?
You know, the reason this has been allowed to fester for so long, according to whistleblowers who reach out to me, is that they were told not to speak out because they would be called racist or Islamophobic, and it would hurt their careers. And so there was a lot of people who wanted to raise the red flag who were intimidated. We expanded whistleblower protection. It was a bill I chief authored this year. And so now whistleblowers have more opportunity to come forward, and they are, which we're grateful for. Minnesotans want clean government. They expect their tax dollars to go to effective programs. And so we are in the process of turning this ship around, but it's going to take some time.
And I imagine the answer to this question is obvious, but you are running for governor. Do you place this squarely on the shoulders of Governor Walz?
Absolutely. There are clear lines of whistleblowers to his agencies, to his attorney general, and to him in his office, where they turned a blind eye time after time, and in some cases, even retaliated against whistleblowers. So, yes, he held no one accountable. To this day, no one's been fired by the governor. And it's shocking to all of us who watch this unfold every day, news story after news story, and no one's been held accountable. He's very lately come to the table. It's because of all the national and local media pressure, because of the work of my committee, because of the indictments coming out of the federal U.S. Attorney's Office. That pressure is finally belatedly bringing him to take some action. But it's far too little too late. He's been there for 7 years and let it happen.
Before I let you go very quickly, one of the garish allegations is this has funded terrorism in Somalia directly. I've read stories where prosecutors say there is no direct linkage at all that has been established. Do you agree?
So I've looked at this and I've talked to whistleblowers and I've also talked to the U.S. Attorney's Office. And I think what we can very clearly say is that when fraudsters took the money from taxpayers and sent it to Somalia, they were indirectly funding terrorism because al-Shabaab takes a cut. That's their standard practice. So al-Shabaab was certainly taking a cut of money that was sent from Minnesota taxpayers that was stolen over there. And whether there was like someone cutting a check to al-Shabaab directly, we have not seen evidence of that yet. But I do not know. I do have whistleblowers who say that was absolutely true, and we're still looking into that.
Al-Shabaab, part of the governing coalition or structure in Somalia. Representative, thank you so much. Kristin Robbins, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.